Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of Nvidia, ticker symbol NVDA. And so in this video, I wanted to do an update on shorting the market, and something happened over the past week with Nvidia that I think is pretty key that could be signaling we're getting to a top in the market. Might be a month out, might be a couple months out, but I do think there are some things going on that could be giving us some signs that a turnaround is in the near future. And so here, looking at Nvidia, the thing that happened following earnings, we did get a pretty big pump, hitting a price, a all-time high of $823.94 on Friday, February 23rd. Hitting a market cap of $2 trillion. And so I had put out a video a couple days ago, actually about a week ago, suggesting that I thought Nvidia would pump following earnings, leading to a $2 trillion market cap. And so that did happen on Friday. It was pretty exciting to see that. I actually streamed it, so I was pretty pumped about that. But if you notice, the market cap after the close on Friday is 1.97 trillion. It was a red day after all. We did get a pullback. And so I'm wondering if that little blip at $2 trillion market cap is going to be the top for Nvidia. It does look like we put in a gap following earnings, which to fill that would be bringing price down to about $688.88, which was the high on February 21st. Also, I do want to point out that if we're looking at the RSI and the stock price, we can see that we have higher highs in the stock price here, but then considering the RSI, we actually are putting in lower highs, as the high on the 12th was 82.54, and now on Friday, having hit a new all-time high. The RSI is at 73.96, still in the overbought territory. But, I do think that we could get another pump. I do think that it could go higher. But I do think that over the next few months, we will be seeing a top in not only Nvidia, but the S&P 500. And I do think there's a pretty awesome way to benefit from that, to make gains from that, or to hedge against the market. But before I go over the S&P 500, I did want to point out that on the weekly time frame, it does look like we put in a bullish engulfing candle, and this topping signal, if there is to be one, is really just this wick at the top here. We did close in the upper half of that week, so, it doesn't really seem like we're putting in a topping signal just yet. But I do think that it will be key to see a weekly close above last week's high of $823.94. So we'll have to see where it closes at next week. Also, I do find it encouraging that even over the course of the weekly time frame, we are seeing volume gradually increasing. So that could suggest that, it will be going higher, but I do think that the top is near. However, on the note of closes, we did put in a close on Friday just above Thursday's high, which was $785.75. So about a little over $2 above that. So I do think it's good that we did close at a new all-time high for closing price. But with it being a red candle, I do think there could be a pullback potentially to fill this gap. And with that, I do think there could be some money to be made by shorting this. But first, let's look at the S&P 500, ticker symbol SPX. And so looking at this, I had done some of these drawings during a live stream, actually on Friday, when this was hitting all-time highs. And I had gone over this uptrending level of support. Does look like we got a fake out testing it on the 20th and opening below it on the 21st, but then following, Nvidia earnings, the S&P 500 went up a lot. And so I think that it's really interesting seeing what's going on with the S&P 500 versus Nvidia and technology generally, specifically thinking about semiconductors, because if we look over at this tweet, this is showing the S&P 500 performance by sector, and you can see that technology, which would include semiconductors, is way overextended, whereas the rest of the S&P 500 sectors are all down here. And so, I do think that technology, if the S&P 500 is to top and pull back, I do think that technology, specifically semiconductors, would feel a lot of that. And so I do think that there's a really nice way to benefit from the market topping, and that is by shorting semiconductors. Here, looking at 3x leveraged short semiconductors, ticker symbol SOXS. I've covered this a few times on the channel, so I just wanted to go over some levels and where I think this could be taking us. And so basically, from this last run up, beginning on January 25th with the low there, going up to the high on January 31st, did this little Fibonacci retracement. And so we can see that we broke below that previous low of $4.37. And we are currently at a price as of the close on Friday, February 23rd, at a price of $4.09. Being up about 3.25% on the day, as you can see here, but at all-time lows, hitting a new low on Friday of $3.86. I do think it is quite possible this could continue lower, like to the 1618 extension from this Fibonacci retracement, and that would be at a price of $3.67.8 or $3.68, right around there. Or, just $3.70. Maybe it doesn't get exactly to this level. So I do think there is further downside, but, you might have noticed in all of my charts here that I do have this blue line marked. And so that is a gap fill to the upside for SOXS, whereas with the S&P 500, that's a gap to the downside. And as I had gone over with Nvidia, another gap to the downside. And so, I do think that is something that the price here of SOXS could be going to, but I also think it could be going a lot higher. Specifically, I do think that it could be going back to its highs around the end of October, which corresponded to lows in the S&P 500, as well as with Nvidia, we actually see the lows here at the end of October before this rally up. So with that being said, that corresponds to the highs here with the SOXS. And so I do think that price could be making its way back up there, but I do think it would be bumping into resistance along the way, like at $6.25, where we do see some consolidation here, as well as at $8 a share, again below this consolidation here that would act as resistance, and then here at $10 a share, as we do see this bottom here and a little bit of consolidation before the breakdown, also $10 being a psychological level. But if price does go up back to the highs here that were hit at the end of October, that would be a 250% gain. And so I do think there's a lot of profit to be made if we do find a top in the market, and B, we see a top in Nvidia. And I think the best way to take advantage of that is not by shorting the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. Even doing that with leverage, you would not get as much of a gain that you see with SOXS. So, that is basically where my focus is, slowly adding, building a position, as I do think this will pay off, even if it just goes to this yellow line at $6.25. Let's see, that is about a 60% swing. I think that's pretty good. I would definitely settle for that, but I do think there's a lot more upside potential. But it might be a couple more months before we actually do see a bottom, but you can never time them exactly. And so that's why I'm building a small position over time, and I'm pretty excited about it. And I hope you are too. And if you found this helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.